And welcome in to the second installment of the Out of Bounds podcast. The Penn IUP Student Voice presents this podcast. I am your host, Josh Carney, joined in the studio by one Mike Gosnell, Dan Wallace, and Dimitri George. Fellas, how are you? No
I'm all right.
Cool. All right.
I'm all right.
The rest of you guys just not paying attention? It's all right. Great start, boys. Great start.
I pay attention.
Anyway, very interesting weekend here at IUP. In case you don't live under a rock, you know that there was a game or two that took place at the KCAC Saturday.
I just want to give a round of applause for the student support at the KCAC on Saturday for both men's and women's.
Yes, and Goose, you and I were on the call for the women's game. They were victorious, snapping a 5-game losing streak. How about that? A 66-50 victory led by one Leslie Stapleton, who was just on fire from beyond the arc, finished 5 of 11 from deep. Goose, we called this game. What were your impressions?
Can I say damn? It's about damn time they do something.
Whoa, you're allowed to say whatever you
bag.
want. We can bleep it out.
It's
but try and not swear.
It's about damn time. It's about time that they came together as a team, and I called in on the Sports Talk Live. One Dan Wallace sitting to my right hosted the show, and I said this Stamp injury is going to really bring this team together, and I'll share some news here. She's off of crutches now, so that's a good sign for them.
It's not. I'm betting it's a high ankle sprain. That's what I would assume it would be.
I'm assuming she's not going to play tomorrow either.
Was she in a booth?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
So
it's gotta be a high
it looked worse than it did.
Okay.
But it's about time that they pull together. And talking to McConnell, he said that he generally pleased all around. No real big glaring mistakes. This has made some small mistakes along the way. And really, I think they had the perfect opponent at the right time. It's amazing what they can do when they click on all cylinders, especially with Leslie Stapleton just being so good these past couple games. And rightfully so, she deserves a starting spot. And another player I think that's really going to evolve as she moves along is Marina Wareham. When Marina Matthew leaves upon graduation, that's going to be her team. She's going to be the point guard there. And I think she played very well against Slippery Rock. And I'm anxious to see what she does Wednesday in Johnstown.
Yeah, all fair points. You mentioned Marina Wareham. I remember the bank three she had that really got that team going early in the first half. But one player I wanted to mention was Alexis Aiken, coming off the bench. Easily her best performance of the season. She had been buried on the depth chart, but like Melanie Todd, those two seem to emerge here in the last week or so for this team. Alexis Aiken, 5 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists in just over 20 minutes of gameplay.
Yeah, and Todd is another player I wanted to bring up. She didn't score any points in that game, but you could tell the way she plays. She's defense. She did a great job limiting Jasmine Frost in the paint, and limiting their bigs in the paint. And overall, in talking with Coach Tom McConnell, he was really pleased. And I think he was a genius for getting her in the starting lineup and causing havoc in the paint for their bigs.
Yeah, Melanie Todd, not a player that's going to fill out the stat sheet, but I mentioned on the broadcast, she's a player that's going to do all the dirty work. She's going to get on the floor for loose balls. She's going to dive out of bounds if she has to. She's going to take the opposing team's best inside player. And Jasmine Frost coming in, averaging close to a double-double. Yeah,
she was
awful for about 38 minutes. No, maybe 35, and really turned it on in the last few. But Melanie Todd, a huge testament to her. Dimitri, you, like I said on the last podcast, you and I rotate as the color analyst for Deuce. And I have to agree with him. It's about damn time they got to win. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, and I think Goose couldn't set up any better with Slippery Rock as the opponent, just at the right time. A team that obviously is struggling. I think they now are 4-14 overall, I think, and 1-7 in the PSAC. So I think, IUP was able to, really do what they want, really facilitate the game, play their own style of basketball. And I just want to comment on Melanie Todd because I pay attention with obviously following this team. She reminds me, if I could or may make a comparison, to a guy like Reggie Evans for the Brooklyn Nets, who comes off the bench. He's not going to wow you. He's not going to, put up huge numbers, but he's going to come in, he's going to rebound, play defense, do, like you said, do the dirty work.
Yeah.
And I think, there's always spots on basketball teams for players like that. Again, there's going to be times where, you might need a big, you might need a checker into the game and have a couple consecutive stops on defense, maybe get a couple fast breaks, get the team going. And I think that she provides that coming off the bench.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Melanie Todd is a key player for this team. She was last year. I think she really can be this year. But I expect her to be in the starting lineup the rest of the year.
Before we get to Dan, I just want to make a point. This was Ashley Stoner's first really efficient game in the fast break.
Yeah.
She did a very good job. She's normally a half-court offense player, but she finally broke out of that, and I think she's turning herself into a player that could do a fast break kind of offense like McConnell has there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And moving on to the men, a game that you couldn't have asked for a better game with two rivals. And Dan Wallace, you had the call on 90.1. What was that like calling the game-winning shot by Matisse Keita?
It was interesting to say the least because it was hard enough to focus on what was going on the game with the raucous atmosphere that was there.
Loudest it's ever been.
I don't know about loudest it's ever been.
I think PSAC Championship was pretty loud.
They are close. I will say this: that is the loudest I've ever heard that venue for a regular season game.
Yeah,
by far.
Yeah.
And just like the women, it was a win that the men really needed because, yeah, they won their previous game against Edinburgh, but before that they were coming off two losses to a very good Gannon team, and a Cal team that 9 times out of 10 they will beat.
Yeah.
But the win against Edinburgh wasn't that big a deal because Edinburgh's not a very good team.
This one was a big win though.
This one was huge because not only was it your biggest rival in the PSAC and Slippery Rock, you're also playing for first place in the PSAC West.
Which they tied, correct?
They are now tied, but they'll hold the tiebreaker over Slippery Rock. So
right.
IUP right now sits in the number 1 spot in the PSAC West.
Yeah. Now, obviously Matisse Keita is going to have all the fanfare this game, all the write-ups. Lead sports writer for the Pen, Pete Sirianni, mentioned vastly how well Matisse Keita played, but I think one player that really stood out to me, Marcel Suburbio. 20 points, 9 boards, and a team high 38 minutes, and I believe he was guarding or being guarded by Maurice Lewis-Briggs most of the game.
They did a little bit of a switch off. We've had a conversation about how IUP's got to find a way to handle Biggs down low, and
which we'll get to.
And yeah, Briggs once again for about the 17th game in a row has dominated IUP in the paint. He, along with every other big man in the PSAC, has just had their way down there. 29 points and 12 boards for Lewis Briggs. It was ridiculous.
It was. I was. I think excuse me. I think I mentioned this to Josh. I was surprised that he was able to stay out of foul trouble. But again, like you said, a very smart basketball player, knowing when to take his chances. And again, with Marcel, I think he was guarding Marcel
at times.
Yeah, and I think Marcel is really he can have a little bit of post offense, but that's not really his main game.
Yeah.
He wanted to get out on the wing, shoot his jumper, which again he was very successful with that on Saturday night. But I got to give credit to Maurice Lewis-Briggs. We talked about him on coming from Morehead State on the last podcast edition.
Played with Kenneth Fareed.
And we obviously know what that brings, a D1 talent. But he was definitely living up to the hype. And I tell you what, yes, I was rooting for IUP, but watching him play and dominate was something special.
Yeah, I completely agree. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see him in person, but listening to Dan call the game, I can only imagine how dominant he was. But Dan, I mentioned this to you when you got back to the booth Saturday night. Why in the world, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce his entire name.
Kalusha Ndumbe Angolo.
There you go. Why was he not put in the game? He matches up size-wise with Lewis Briggs, and Coach Lombardi, again, wants to stick to his guns, not do anything to change it up, and doesn't put Angolo in the game, and Lewis Briggs nearly won Slippery Rock that game single-handedly.
Here's my thing. I agree with you. He needs to get, especially with the way they've been being dominated by Biggs, he needs to get at least an opportunity to show what he can do.
I understand he's very raw.
He's new. He's very new to the game.
He's a big body,
Yeah.
and you need that down low in the PSAC.
He's only put together a total of 73 minutes this entire season, and he got some time when Norfleet was ineligible because Lombardi only has a tendency to not go very deep on his bench. He only goes about 3 players deep on his bench, and
which sometimes I think can be a mistake.
yeah, it can be questionable at times. Against Slippery Rock on Saturday, he went with Yard, he went with Bosnick, and he went with Cottrell. His 3 guys that he usually goes to off the bench. And Cottrell is typically a defensive force.
At 6'5", too.
Yeah, but Lewis Briggs was 6'8", 240.
Yeah, no match.
Not at all. But the thing is, Angolo's 6'8", 245. So if he's going to get down there on the block, he's going to stand down there, and Lewis Briggs isn't going to be able to back him down like he was able to do to everybody else who was smaller.
Exactly. We talked about that when the game was over Saturday. I was completely surprised that Angolo wasn't even put in the game. But IUP, lucky to escape with a last-second victory. And now I believe they're 15-2 on the season. They could easily be 14-3 because of the way Lewis Briggs dominated.
And I think the problem that you guys are talking about, the lack of size, is going to be a huge problem going down the stretch here, especially going into the tournament.
The only thing that I think is the reason Lombardi would have questioned that move is because I don't know if Angolo had quick enough feet to keep up with Lewis Briggs. Because Lewis Briggs, he may be a big man, but he can move down in the post.
Are we talking about a Blake Fetter kind of comparison?
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily, because Vetter was a stick.
Yeah, right.
And he refused to play on the post. He was 7'3", for Christ's sake.
If you remember, he hit the 3, and then he thought, I'm the next great Dirk Nowitzki. I'm going to shoot threes every game.
This is a man that could have stood down on the block and went like this and dunked it. Just stuck his hand up in the air.
Yeah.
That's it.
But he refused because he's a twig.
Yeah.
But he's gone on to greener pastures.
Or browner ones, whatever we want.
Anyway, Crimson Hawks 15-2. I'm sure they will move up slightly in the national ranking from 15. I would say somewhere into the 13 range.
13, 12, something like it.
Depends
on who lost.
But both the men and the women travel Wednesday to Pitt Johnstown. Goose and I will have the women's call at 5:30 on 90.1 WIPFM. Dan and Malusi Kitchen will have the call 7:30 on 90.1 WIPFM.
Going back to where it started, my hometown.
Well, for you, I mean, if we were going back to where it started for me, it'd be Pittsburgh, complete opposite way. Anyway, while we were busy Saturday night, there were other big-time collegiate athletics going on. And when we previewed on the last podcast, number 21 Michigan traveled to East Lansing to take on number 3 Michigan State. And the Michigan Wolverines knocked off Sparty in an upset, in a sense, 80-75. Nick Skauskas, 19 points, 4 assists, 2 rebounds, still continues to play some of the best basketball in the country. Karis LeVert stepped up, 17 points, including 3 three-pointers. He also had 8 rebounds for the Wolverines. And freshman guard Derek Walton Jr., 19 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. Unbelievable performance for Coach John Beilein and the Wolverines that he got from those 3. You keep in mind, Mitch McGarry is out for the year. And the Wolverines are still playing very well. Glenn Robinson didn't really show up, just 9 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist. But for Sparty, a guy that's really underrated in my opinion, Gary Harris. If you were to look at mock drafts in the NBA, he's not even the top 10 or even the top 15 in some of them. But I think he might be one of the better players in the country. He had 27 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals. Guys, this was an upset, but I think we're also starting to see the Big Ten emerge as a power conference. There was always the thought that, they're a tough conference. But to me, I think they're the best conference in the country. Dan, you're giving me a look like you don't agree, so we're going to go to you. Thoughts on this game, and where does the Big Ten stand now?
They're better off for this in terms of the power that this conference has, but you still got to look at the fact that Ohio State, who is dominating, and this might be a testament to this as well. The Ohio State, who was dominating out of conference, 4 straight losses. Wisconsin, who was dominating out of conference, 3 straight losses. I mean, Ohio State was losing to the likes of Nebraska. I mean, Nebraska does nothing.
They're a
in
football
basketball.
factory, not basketball.
Yeah, exactly. And it's hard to say who's the best conference in the country this year.
It's fair.
Only-
It's up for debate.
The only thing we know is it's not the ACC, which everybody thought it
It
was
was
going to be.
supposed to be.
Yes,
And
that's the only thing we know. You at this point, you could take a coin to me and flip it between the Big Ten and the Big 12, and that's about it. Granted, the Big 12 has done the same thing that the Big 10 has, and they've gotten into conference play, and some of the teams that dominated out of conference, Iowa State, Baylor, have fallen off a little bit playing tougher competition within their conference.
Yep.
So that leads me to question, are those teams really as good, just as I do with Ohio State and Wisconsin?
I'm
Fair.
partial to the Big 12, but
Well, we're going to get to that in just a second because I want to get your thoughts on something. But, Dimitri, the same question goes to you. Where do you have the Big Ten in terms of best conference in the country? And is this Michigan Wolverines team for real, especially with their best player, McGarry, out for the year?
To answer the first question, I think that the Big Ten right now has got to be mentioned as among the best, only by default, because I think that like ACC, as we mentioned, with all the new school, the Pitts, the Syracuses, and the
They were
teams like
supposed
that,
to be dominant.
right?
And they're not.
Again, Duke and Pitt play tonight.
Yeah, we're filming this on
right,
Monday.
right.
We're recording this Monday, so we weren't going to do a preview. But
Right. So
Duke play tonight.
so there's. To answer your question, I think the Big Ten obviously has to be mentioned, but only by default. So I think the jury's still out on the Big Ten. But in terms of this Michigan team, I think it was a huge win for them to beat Michigan State on the road. And one quick thing I think I'm going to comment on Michigan State. Keith Appling, I think, is struggling a little bit. He's got some nagging injuries that are kind of disrupting him. Yeah, he's playing with a wrist injury and a bad back. So I
You know
think
what, though? Struggling, he dropped 10 dimes.
10 and 10.
So, I mean, I'll
I-
take a struggling Appling right now over a Spike Ulbricht or a Derek Walton Jr. who's hit or miss. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, this game would be different if Adrian Payne
Right.
and Brandon Dawson played.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think you three picked Michigan State.
Yes.
I never made my pick, so I'm going to go on record and say I was picking Michigan only because I'm a fan. I'm not really. I would have taken Michigan State because we assumed Adrian Payne would be back.
Right. We said he was going to full go, too.
And all of a sudden, Friday, right before our radio show, he's out for a considerable amount of time because Coach Izzo believed he wasn't ready. So, but you were back to what you were saying about Michigan. Do you think this is for real?
I mean, if they play the way they did, I mean, they ended that game on a 10-0 run.
Yeah.
That really, put a stranglehold on that victory for them. I mean, they're 7-0 in the Big Ten. Stauskas was 5 of 6 for 3-point land. Walton Jr. had a great game. If they get performances like that, Glenn Robinson, if he can, contribute a little bit more, who knows? Again, they're not to be sneezed at.
Overlooked, yeah.
Yeah. So, to me, Michigan definitely should, is a team to look out for. As you mentioned, Mitch McGarry's out for the year.
Do you think Michigan? Where would you, if the season ended today, where would you have them ranked in going into the tournament as a seed wise? I would say a 5.
I was going to 4 or 5 range.
Fair. So we're right on the same
Right.
page. Dan, you are flailing your hands ridiculously right now. What is it?
Here's what I'm going to tell you. This is why this is for real. Because me and you talked about this Friday about the fact that Payne was out, and when we said on the last podcast, oh, you know what, Michigan State's going to be okay. They have Payne back. They lost Dawson. Okay, but then when we saw Payne was out, we said, oh, no, big man, bye bye.
Yeah.
But the reason this is for real for Michigan is because when you look at the stat line, this game wasn't played underneath anyway
Jumpers.
by either team.
Jumpers.
You look at what Michigan had, you would think, okay, no Payne, no Dawson, let's pound the ball underneath. Glenn Robinson had 9. Jordan Morgan had 4.
Yeah.
All points, pretty much, for both teams were scored on the perimeter.
Yeah.
So essentially, both teams played the same style of game, and Michigan won the perimeter battle.
You're right. Now, you made a point earlier that you would have the Big Ten and the Big 12 right up there tied. Obviously, we know who's in the Big 12. Oklahoma State, Kansas State. a lot of good teams, but one surprise team, for one person at least in this room, who is finally ranked in the top 25 for the first time since 2010-2011 season. The Texas Longhorns.
About damn time.
Who,
Here we go again with that.
if you recall, what did I say to you in the beginning of the year? Before the college season even tipped off?
I recall nothing.
You are lying through your teeth.
I honestly don't remember
I
saying
remember
anything.
sitting, I believe it was in the radio booth, and you said they're going to be terrible. And I said they're going to be a lot better than people think.
I mean, it was like we were going back and forth on Twitter. I call them a bunch of ragtag players that never got a look from any other college,
And that's okay.
And perfectly fine. They're getting the results. They've won against 3 straight top-ranked teams. They got Kansas coming down the pike very soon. I believe on February 1st.
That may be a loss.
That may be a loss, but this team can shoot the lights out of the gym.
Yeah.
And Cameron Ridley is for real. He is a very good center. I
Big boy
think
down low.
he will be good in the NBA.
I like Lambert. He's a kid that can shoot from the outside.
Isaiah Taylor, who
Isaiah
just
Taylor's
got
pretty
national
good.
honors from as a player of the week.
The Big 12, first off, it's a misnomer. Big 12, 10 teams. They need it. Why don't them in the Big 10 just switch names?
You're right, because
I
the
don't
Big
know.
10 is going to be the Big 12 eventually.
They are right now.
They're
They have
gonna be
12
the Big
teams.
13 when
Exactly.
Maryland comes in.
But
That just doesn't sound right.
no. But the Big 12 very well may get 7 teams in the tournament out of their 10.
Rightfully so.
It's crazy. And if WVU's not playing in the Big 12 this year, they might get in too.
I mean, you look at it, you got Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Iowa State, who I think has one of the best players in the country, and DeAndre Kane, a local kid out of Pittsburgh. West Virginia always gives teams a run for their money. So
They gave
we're
Oklahoma
looking at
State
a loaded conference. And the fact that the Longhorns are 5-2 in conference, 16-4 overall.
And are only 25.
Well,
They have more quality wins than half their.
I wouldn't say that.
But they're just breaking into the
I
top
wouldn't
25.
say that. Right now, you can't look. The thing with college basketball in the top 25, yes, they beat 3 ranked teams in a row, but you can't just say, well, they were unranked this week. Oh, let's put them up at 16 now. Like that's not.
No,
how it
I
works.
understand
I mean,
that.
Look at Pitt. Pitt at the beginning of the year was just crushing, just lesser opponents.
Yeah, but that's
when
Jamie
they cracked
Dixon's
the
schedule.
top 25, they were only at 22. Now they've worked their way up to wherever they are. I don't care. It's Pitt.
Because they're going to drop out soon.
They're gonna get smacked tonight.
But
Yes,
I'm genuinely surprised that they're doing this well. I thought this, and like you said before, this is Rick Barnes' coaching. This is for his job.
My opinion right now, as of right now, he comes back next year because he has this team sitting
On the right track.
They are right there with the best teams in the Big 12.
My only concern is he's not in on any big recruiting
That's
prospects.
okay.
But it's whatever works. Don't
it's
broke
okay.
don't broke if it's
Pitt is
whatever's
never
fixed.
big.
I've screwed up on that, but anyway,
If it's not broke or
don't fix it.
Well, yeah,
Don't-
whatever.
yeah.
But I'm impressed by this Texas team. I may not know a lot of players on the team, but I'm impressed by them. But another game that happened Saturday, one we also previewed, Syracuse and Miami, was a heck of a game for the first 36 minutes. Then Syracuse went on a big run to end the game. Miami went on a 5-minute scoring drought. But Dimitri, a kid from your hometown, I believe of Ewing, New Jersey?
Yes, sir.
Is that what it is?
Yes, sir.
Why don't you tell me about that kid?
Old Davon Reed, who I did give a shout out to.
That you did.
I believe he dropped 16.
Yeah.
On
One
the
of the
old.
best players on the floor for Miami at times.
Yes. 9 of 17 from 3-point. I mean, he put up a lot from the 3-point land, but he.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But again, yeah, I mean, Miami obviously is a bit of a transition with a lot of their players leaving. Shane Larkin, most notably.
They lost 6 key players from that team.
Right.
They made a Sweet 16 run, or was it Elite 8?
They lost in the Elite 8.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
So and Shane Larkin is the only one in the pros right now.
Right. Well, that team had a lot of seniors on it last year.
Yeah.
didn't it? And
Oh,
besides
yeah.
Shane Larkin,
I think they had five were seniors, and then Larkin was the freshman.
Yeah, freshman. So I don't know, whatever it was. But again, they are a young team. I'm trying to. I can't seem to find their record after 10-9 overall, 2-5 in the ACC. So obviously they're struggling a little bit. But again, Davon Reed, 16 points for him. Definitely proud to say that he is from my hometown. But Syracuse was just too much.
Down the stretch, like they always are.
And you know that's going to happen. Good Syracuse team, good coach team. They're going to do that to you. You may be able to hang around with them, but again, they're just too good, too veteran, too seasoned. And again, props to Syracuse for handling their business.
Well, this had a lot. I mean, it was a bigger margin of victory for Syracuse, but
still the same game.
Well, no, it was similar to the IUP game.
Oh, okay.
In the fact that the reason Syracuse won this game, look at the free throw differential. 17 of 27 for Syracuse. They got to the line 27 times. Miami, 7 of 11. 16 more shots from the stripe for Syracuse than Miami.
I was listening to the game on my phone because I'm currently in a predicament with cable, so I could not watch the game Saturday. Thank you to my one roommate. Anyway, I listened to the game on TuneIn Radio, and it was the Miami broadcast. And the local guy down there that does the Florida Panthers, the Miami Hurricanes, the Miami Dolphins, the Miami Marlins, calls everything down there. He was losing his mind on some of these foul calls, which obviously I couldn't see them, so I couldn't have an opinion on it. But I do see your point. 16 extra free throws. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, and they made 10 more too. So there's a 10-point differential right there.
Yeah.
Syracuse would have won by 2.
Which they won by 5 last time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I expected a close game. I really did. Miami plays everyone tough. They're Miami. Jim Larinaga is a great coach. He gets the most out of the least, in my opinion. And Ryan Brown may be one of the best players in the ACC that nobody really knows. Saturday, 13 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, and he only played 38 minutes. But I mean, he was the best player on the floor at times for either team, and we know how loaded Syracuse is. So I'm not surprised that Miami gave Syracuse a game. But that's going to do it for college basketball. We're going to move on to something Goose is excited about, but we're going to take a really quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with Stadium Series. Welcome back to the Out of Bounds podcast. When we first left, I mentioned we were going to talk the Stadium Series games that happened this past weekend. Saturday night, the Anaheim Ducks and the Los Angeles Kings played at Dodger Stadium, which was a very interesting venue choice in my opinion, considering it was quite warm out there. And then Sunday afternoon, the New York Rangers and the New Jersey Devils faced off in Yankee Stadium. And Goose, we know you are the hockey fanatic in this room. Your team played Sunday. But I want to get your thoughts first on the Stadium Series games in general. Was this a bit overdone? Is this trying to recreate the Winter Classic and just going overboard?
Absolutely not. This is fantastic. It's great for the game. It's, despite what people think, this game's growing in popularity here, and this is what they're going to use to do it. I'm perfectly fine with it. It proves they can be successful. They sold out Dodger Stadium, an LA non-traditional market. And
I would counter you there. I think LA is a hotbed for hockey now. That entire
it's turning into one.
Southern California area.
Emerson Edom, Ducks prospect, came from Southern California. Bo Bennett's from Southern California, a Penguins prospect. I see your point, but in essence, it's like Anaheim, a non-traditional. San Jose, Phoenix, that's a reclamation project there, but that's completely different.
Yeah.
But it's excellent. I think it's excellent. It's not. They can't add more. They cannot add more.
That's where I was going to go.
But
this is my thing. I love the Winter Classic. My opinion, I think NHL owns New Year's Day now because you just get crappy bowl games on New Year's Day.
Over the Rose Bowl.
During the day. They don't clash.
No.
That's where I think it differentiates. If they kept the Rose Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl at night like they have been and just stopped having 6 other games that day, I think it would do wonders not only for college football, but for the NHL. The NHL, like I said, I think it owns New Year's Day. There's no question in my mind.
The one game that the NHL has to do is Pittsburgh, Philadelphia at Beaver Stadium.
It's going to happen.
That's the one game that everybody, no matter if you're a fan in Canada
you can
or
bet
in
I'll
the
be
United
there.
States,
I would pay my life savings to sit in that
a
stadium.
Beaver Stadium Winter Classic absolutely has to happen.
It will.
And it would break so many. I don't think it would break the Big House record. It might.
It would.
But
I guarantee you there'd be 110,000 people in that stadium. It holds 106,000, but there'd be 110,000. Mark my words.
It's a great thing for the game. I have no problems with it. The only thing I would say is schedule more rivalries. Pittsburgh, Chicago, not really a big rivalry, but the two best teams in the NHL. I can see where the NHL's going with that.
Patrick
Yeah.
Kane, Jonathan Taves. I mean,
I would just love to see a Boston-Montreal outside game. That one of the it's on par with Pittsburgh, Philadelphia.
Yeah.
But overall, love it. I wouldn't change anything except not adding more.
Dan, what about you? You like it? Think it's too much?
Not yet.
Okay.
I don't think it's too much yet. I'm with Goose on this one. In my opinion, is the only reason they even have 2 games in New York is because they said, you know what, it's not fair that we can let the Rangers and the Islanders play and say the Devils can't do it.
That was our joke, though.
There's still a New York
That's
market.
true.
You can't really say, let's let 2 of the 3 play, and the third one, you know what? Sorry, you just don't really count. No, you can't do that. That's the only reason they really did that there. If they keep it to the point where it's 3 venues a year, outside of the Winter Classic, and I like the Heritage Classic too, letting 2 Canadian teams play outdoors in Canada once a year. I like that too, where it's going to be up in BC Place this year in Vancouver between the Senators and the Canucks.
And you think it's cold out now? Imagine
But that's in March. I mean, it's a little warmer.
British Columbia, and still it's
But still, nonetheless, I like it for now. Again, I like the choices that they had, other than, you have a bunch of the stars in the Blackhawks and the Penguins. I think they could have done better with that in terms of getting a rivalry, because I think if they want this to really grow and succeed, they need to make sure it is bitter rivals playing. You couldn't really do Chicago Detroit this year because they played on Detroit played in the Winter Classic. I think they maybe could have got it a little better if they did Chicago St. Louis, because you still have a ton of stars in that one, and that's a huge budding rivalry. Those 2 teams sitting atop of the Central Division right now.
It would mean something. In the
Exactly.
regular season.
Exactly. It really doesn't mean anything between the Penguins and the Blackhawks because they're in 2 separate conferences and they're sitting. The Blackhawks aren't leaps and bounds ahead of the rest of their division, but the Penguins are.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't mean much. I'm with you. Pens Flyers has to happen. The other thing is, they made it work in Los Angeles. So now these teams, though, that are other teams down south, Dallas, Phoenix, Florida, Tampa Bay, they're going to say, you put these giant machines under the ice, you might as well bring it down here, too.
Well, I think what also worked in Southern California, in Chavez Ravine, it was 57 degrees, which is the normal temperature inside arenas, if I do recall.
Yeah, they just have the ice. They keep the ice at a steady 28 or something like that. Yeah. But it's always because they have giant machines underneath the ice that keep it frozen, so they can keep the air temperature a bit warmer.
Yeah.
But Dallas, I mean, it snows in Dallas occasionally.
not very often, but it would not work with the Florida Panthers. It wouldn't work.
Well, because their franchise is terrible.
It would work in Tampa Bay. I know it would work in Tampa Bay.
The Florida Panthers shouldn't even be in Florida to begin with.
That's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
But the one game I want to talk about really quickly, I was not able to catch the Ducks Kings again because I don't have cable. But I was able to catch...
Somebody's a little salty.
You would be too if you've been without cable and internet for a week.
Okay, never mind.
But I was able to catch the Rangers-Devils game at the gym yesterday.
Joke.
And,
I'm saying.
oh, I thought you were talking to me. I was like, what? I'm trying to
No. I'm
be
just
healthy
saying.
and
Oh,
active.
the great
Oh, that is
Marty
a joke,
Brodeur.
too.
Oh, yeah. Well, Goose, you may be able to
second best
talk
ever.
about this personally. You like the Rangers, and they came out and they thrashed the Devils. Your thoughts on that game?
Devils got what they deserved.
Oh, man. Oh,
Marty
Brodeur.
Brodeur is the second best goalie in history.
I don't think there's anyone in this room that would...
Patrick Waugh
damn.
is the best goalie ever. He didn't play behind a New Jersey Devils defense that had Scott Stevens and Rob Niedermeyer. and
I'm gonna
Scott
play,
Niedermeyer.
I'm going to play devil's advocate.
We love that term here.
No pun intended.
What about...
Patrick Waugh played with Forsberg and Sakic. He had a good offense.
Wait. Rob Blake, Ray Bork at one point,
And a Ray Bork that was in his...
Adam Foote. I'm just being devil's advocate. He had some good defensemen.
Rob Blake's not Scott Stevens, and Adam Foote's not
Stevens is
Scott
not
Niedermeyer.
Rob Blake.
Scott Stevens is one of the best defensive
No.
defensemen in history.
He's one of the greatest hitters. He would not be on the ice in the final minute of the game. Game 7 Stanley Cup Finals on the line, in my opinion. All he's out there to do is to hit somebody, and I don't need that. I need someone that's going to play sound.
Sounds a lot like Matt Cook to me, but anyway, going back to the Rangers game.
Matt Cook also had a 20-goal season before.
The player that no one talks about that deserves all the credit in the world is Matt Zuccarello. 15 goals, a career high for him. I think he's going to score almost 30 this year. He's been
He's on pace.
so good. Rick Nash, 11 goals in 11 games, proving that he's worth being selected over James Neal.
I have no.
Henrik Lundqvist found his game. Marty Brodeur complained it was the worst ice. Well, everybody played on that ice, so...
Well, King Henrik also gave up 3 goals in that game. I mean, and some.
He didn't give up 6 or 7.
Granted, but some of the goals Lundqvist gave up were ugly.
Well,
Completely out of position on
the
Yager's
Yager,
assist to
which
who was it?
Elias.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to catch a lot of flack for this. Jaromir Jagr is better than Mario Lemieux.
You're not gonna hear you're not gonna catch flack from anyone in here.
Jaromir Jagr is better than Lemieux statistically.
Well, wait a second. I'm gonna play devil's advocate.
Shocking.
Has Yager missed significant time in his career?
Besides going to Russia, really no. He's one of the more. He's very healthy.
His
He's had some
longevity's
growing
fantastic.
Now, can you tell me what Lemieux went through?
back problems, cancer.
He missed a lot of time. If he doesn't hurt his back, have his wrist broken, have cancer, I think he'd be close to Gretzky points-wise. And this wouldn't be a discussion. But with the way everything played out, yeah, you have a fair argument that Yager's better than Lemieux. But in terms of, if you were talking to a Penguins fan, they're going to say Lemieux because a lot of Penguins fans hate Yager for what he did. I'm
Which
not
is
one of those.
unceremonious.
I do not hate Yager either. I think it was a business decision by the Pittsburgh Penguins to say, okay, this guy's caused some problems in the locker room a little bit. We can open up some space by getting rid of him and sending him away. But you just have to look at it from the fact that Lemieux did just as much as Yager has in such a shorter time. His career was cut short by injuries. Yes, injuries play a factor.
I'm not saying they don't.
And he missed...
Grant Hill could be one of the greatest basketball players of all time if he doesn't have
Mhm.
just ridiculous amounts of ankle injuries.
Yeah, you can't always help it. Things happen. Like you think Lemieux's gonna? I mean, you're not gonna. If you went and asked him and said, "Is the reason you only put that much up because of your injuries?" He's gonna say no. But that's him being modest.
Another example would be Gale Sayers. Blew out his knee. He tried playing through it, but he lost all his explosiveness, his cutting ability.
My thing is, it's taken Yager this long to catch him, and he's had many, many, many more games to do it.
Can we look that up? Can we find that statistic? Games played compared. I'm just curious. But
I mean,
I
maybe-
see your point.
Maybe it's because I grew up watching Jaromir Jagr, and
Which
he was
is
my
fine.
favorite player. To me, he's the best player that ever played the game.
Over Gretzky?
I never got to see Gretzky play, but
Greatest player you've ever seen would be.
I think
Yeah.
he did say greatest player.
I've ever seen play.
Oh, okay. I thought you said
Gretzky is the greatest of all time. Not even Crosby won't catch him, although he has a good chance to. But
I wouldn't say never because Crosby, again, remember, is only 24.
true, but no one can compare to the great one.
It was also a different time. I mean, Gretzky
True.
was
But
regularly putting up 200 points a season.
But-
It doesn't happen anymore.
once again, getting back to the game, I guess. I thought, as a fan of any team, you think the worst when you're down 3-1, but they think 3-1 is the most dangerous lead in hockey, a 2-goal lead.
Were you calling for Elaine Vigneault to be fired?
At the beginning of the season, I was,
No, I'm
but
talking in this game, down
No.
3-1.
I think the Rangers have shown over time that they can compete with anybody now. The only team they have seen have trouble against is Pittsburgh.
I was going to say.
That's the only team
to
they
beat
have
Pittsburgh
trouble.
before they're they are legit to me. Same with the Flyers, Dimitri. You know how it is. I mean,
But they have beaten the Penguins this year.
but I'm talking.
Consistently?
But we never.
Yeah.
They never have met in the playoffs. Like, I think the last time they met was like in 08, 09.
When the Penguins
07, 08.
went to the Cup. I was at the playoff game.
What? No. Are you talking about us?
No. The
okay.
Pens
No.
and Rangers. I was at that series where Sean Avery poked Fleury in the chest with a stick after the game had ended, and
Well,
Gill beat the crap out of him.
That's Sean Avery, but and they have their own. They have their own pest now in Daniel Carcillo, who's done a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Fantastic job for Alain Vigneault and the Rangers. Dan, have you figured this
The
out
internet's
yet?
being very slow.
Okay, well, we'll come back to that when we figure
Almost
it
there.
out. But,
Promise.
Dimitri, are you still awake down there?
Oh, I'm awake.
We're getting to your sport now. So, what was that, Dan?
The fact
Because
Sunday-
you're going to
the
talk
fact
about
that we're going to discuss
you're
these
going to
two
talk
comp-
about you're going to talk about the Pro Bowl, and I don't even know why because it's a joke and no one watches
We're
it.
not talking
The
about
fact
the
that
game.
people
We're
the
not-
fact that people watch it is a joke.
We're not talking about the game. We're not talking about the game whatsoever. Dimitri wants to talk about the draft process, which I am a huge fan of.
To me, it wasn't not last year's Pro Bowl. The year before that, 2012,
Was
which
the
was
lowest of lows?
yes. Dan,
Do you have the stats?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Jaromir Jagr, 1,391. Mario Lemieux, 951.
Oh my goodness. Okay. That'll be a topic for another day.
400 more games.
so 2012. What was I say? 12.
2011, I believe. It was the game in Miami, was it not?
No. It was still in Hawaii.
Okay. So
Whatever one it was.
Yeah, the
a
lowest
few
of
years
lows.
ago, guys are just walking through. It's like they're playing two-hand touch. It was a joke.
Essentially,
Okay.
that's what they were.
And I was one of them who said that they need to get rid of the Pro Bowl because what's the point of it?
What was it? Jared Allen rolling
Yeah.
at the line of scrimmage.
I
Literally
forgot
doing
about
barrel
that. I
rolls
forgot
at the line
about
of
that.
scrimmage.
I forgot about that.
I mean, he's a character to begin with, but still.
So I was one of the many that said the Pro Bowl's got to do away with it. Last year, it wasn't really a good improvement, but I think this year with the fantasy football, so to speak, kind of draft, I thought was exciting. I thought, it was no longer a conference. You had teammates going up against each other. Jamal Charles and Derek Johnson met in the hole a couple times. You said Mike Tolbert.
Luke Kuechly.
Luke
Kuechly found out what a bowling ball really feels like. That was impressive.
And you know what? And if you say what you want about it, I saw a statistic. I think it had 11.1 million viewers, which was the most of any professional All-Star game.
People are going to watch, and you want to know why? It's football.
Oh, absolutely. Well, then, yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, besides that fact, I think they got excited with, Jerry Rice and Deion Sanders being the...
Man, does Deion Sanders look old.
Yeah, but he's going to shave it. I guarantee you're going to watch him on NFL Network this week for
He
Super Bowl
looks
coverage.
old, though.
And you're going to... I'll tell you
Like,
what.
that's prime time?
He can get out there and still run a 4.25, I bet.
You think?
I guarantee
What about Jerry Rice?
He'll still... you know what is funny? I think Jerry Rice... I was talking to Kyle. Intern Kyle, and we were talking about... I wish I got to see Jerry Rice and Deion Sanders go head-to-head.
Oh, my goodness. Well, you can look it up on YouTube.
And I saw a stat, and they actually brought up a stat. I think Jerry Rice against Deion Sanders head-to-head, Jerry runs 6-4. They won 6, and I think he had 60 receptions for over 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. I don't know, something like that. So Jerry Rice had his way with Deion Sanders, but Deion Sanders did have 4 interceptions. But again, going back to the Pro Bowl real quickly, I thought it was a great improvement. I thought it was fun. Shout out Antonio Brown with
AB all day.
with a good big catch at the end of the game there. But again, it was all for fun. But again, the real game's this Sunday. But I thought the Pro Bowl took a step in the right direction with the 22-21 victory with Team Rice.
Yeah, I love the draft process. They're copying off of the NHL, which the NHL made it successful. But I really liked how it was set up. I liked seeing teammates go against each other. I thought that was really cool. But, I just wish it was more competitive. I wish, I know the score was close.
Right.
But I want it to be that intense.
Right.
Like,
And-
do or die. You know what I mean? And because that's football to me.
The MLB, whoever wins that league has home field advantage in the World Series. How do you what
How
if
do
you,
you determine?
well I was gonna say how do you make that aside from I think that's 30,000, 25,000 more you get as if you're on the winning team in terms of money. How do you make it more
I don't
meaningful?
know. Honestly, it's a good point, and that may be a topic for another day. But you can't say, "Oh, this person gets home field,"
Right, because
it's in a neutral site.
Right.
You could say the side. Well, they don't do AFC and NFC anymore,
Right.
so it's completely irrelevant. They could have done if they did AFC and NFC. Hey, winner gets ball first in the Super Bowl.
right. So
And that would be my
Right.
suggestion. You can't say, "Oh, well, the winner, whoever's the worst team in that conference, gets first pick in the draft." That would be dumb.
I think they did one good thing by making the Pro Bowl the week before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because I think after
It does keep some good players out,
Right.
but it gives the players.
It just
better
adds more
chance.
hype.
Yeah,
I think what they should do is the winner gets a month free Hawaiian vacation.
they can afford that already. Come on
It's
now.
Well,
not
pay for
free, but
Why pay for it though?
Anyway, another
but you want everything free, so it doesn't matter.
good point. Don't we all, in a sense?
Yeah.
don't you want your
All right.
cable
All
back?
right. Hang
Yeah, I
on.
want my cable back. Anyway,
Nobody's giving you free cable.
I wish. Real quick, Dan.
Every All-Star game.
Is
I
it a
don't
joke?
care if it's I don't care if it's the NFL. I don't care if it's the NHL. I don't care if it's the MLB. I don't care if it's the NBA. They're all a joke. Who cares?
Well, MLB
Here's-
is pretty good.
No, here's the you really want to let an all-star team decide who gets an extra game at home for the World Series?
Yes.
Let the team that has the better record, who's shown it all year, determine who gets an extra game for the World Series.
Fair. Fair point. Fair point.
That's what you got. Just let the team with the better record do it. My point is, it's nice. Okay, everybody wants to see the best players play. Everybody wants.
I do. I enjoy Midsummer Classic.
But
Honestly.
that to me, that is the best one of all the All-Star games, and the reason it's the best one is because there is the least likelihood of injury.
There it goes. And that was my point. That was my point I was going to make. Football, the Pro Bowl gets highly scrutinized, but again, I'm not... Okay, 2011, 12, whatever that game was a joke, but I don't blame players. Especially a guy like Jarius Byrd, who got a little bit of injury earlier in the game last night, who is an impending free agent, who is going to cash in. You know, I don't blame guys like that who are not trying to go really hard for a game that really means nothing. It's just a show for the fans.
No, if I'm playing in a game that I'm not worried about the record, I'm not worried about the score, I don't really get anything out of it, I'm not going to play hard. I'm not going to risk my own. I'm not going to risk my own livelihood for it.
Fair. Guys, another game that actually was competitive and was a game of all-stars in a sense was the Senior Bowl for college football in Mobile, Alabama. It's always a great game every year. It's seniors basically displaying their skills for draft experts, scouts for teams, general managers, and a few guys, Derek Carr, to be specific, and D. Ford, defensive end from Auburn, really solidified themselves as legitimate NFL prospects. I think Derek Carr goes top 10. I'm seeing a lot of teams, or a lot of mock drafts have him going to the Vikings.
I saw Oakland.
Oakland, I have seen Oakland. I think he's a very good quarterback, but some teams may be scared off by what his brother did.
I was about to say, hopefully better
But-
than brother.
I think if David Carr doesn't go to the Texans first overall in 2002 and play behind that horrible offensive line, he has a successful NFL career. Not winning Super Bowls or MVPs or anything, but a productive quarterback. He's not a bust in a sense. Another guy I really, really was impressed by was one Crockett Gilmore, Colorado State tight end. This is a guy who he was known as a blocking tight end. Comes into senior week, lights it up on the practice field offensively. Goes out into the game, leads the team in catches, 6 catches, 51 yards, and a touchdown. This is a guy I could see going to New England in the middle rounds and being a beast for the end of Tom Brady's career. A big target. He can block. He can stay healthy. He has soft hands. He's athletic. He really shot up the boards. One guy, though, that I knew was very overrated coming into this year has fallen down the board.
Can I take a guess?
Go ahead.
Tosh Boyd?
Taj Boyd is terrible.
I was going to say,
Give me the ball. Let me throw to Sammy Watkins. See the numbers I put up.
can I talk about a guy that was not the Senior Bowl that I thought should have been?
I think I know where you're going.
I think you do too. A.J. McCarron.
Yeah, I agree with you, man.
I
love
honestly,
AJ, but
I
he needs to be there.
absolutely think that, especially after their season ended, he definitely needed to appear in the Senior Bowl because again, I don't understand why these obviously it's a Senior Bowl, so obviously seniors go. But to me, when you talk about guys having opportunities to show their talent and show these scouts and coaches of what they can do, I think you need to take every opportunity. If you go Senior Bowls, whether it's workouts, whether it's your pro day, whether it's the combine, use all that to further to give these scouts and these coaches every.
I see where AJ's coming from, saying, "Look what I just did in 4 years in Alabama."
This isn't Alabama.
I understand it. I think what he's doing though is, look at what I did there against college competition. Then I'm going to go out in my pro day and at the combine and show my individual skills.
Guys like Andrew Luck, who are coming out, I can see why they say, you know what? Look what I did at Stanford, and he was compared to John Elway and all these these
That's
guys.
high praise.
And he said, I'm not going to throw at the combine. I'm going to wait till my pro day. AJ McCarron, who could be a very good quarterback in the NFL,
I think he will.
he's
He
not
lands in
in
the right
that. He's not in that conversation with
Fair.
Andrew Luck.
Fair.
I didn't catch the game, but did Mike Davis from Texas play in that game, or I don't? Because I know he's
I
going.
do
out.
not recall, but
He did.
I think he's.
Mike Davis had 3 catches for 20 yards.
I think he's decent. I mean, he's had a good.
a lot of
combine
mocks I'm
workout.
seeing he's going to go to a team like Detroit or Green Bay, which is the perfect landing spot for him. He's going to have an all-pro Pro Bowl quarterback
Correct, man.
throwing to him if he lands at one of those 2 destinations.
The quarterbacks were very disappointing in this game.
Besides, no, there's one other guy that I was
Stephen
impressed
Morris?
by. No. Jimmy Garoppolo out of Eastern Illinois. I'm telling you, this guy reminds me of Tony Romo in terms of statistics. This is a topic for another day. I think Tony Romo is a damn good quarterback. I know he throws picks in clutch situations, but he also has the most game-winning drives in the last 4 years.
When it matters.
Yes, look
Would
up
you
the statistics.
would
Look
you
up the
take
statistics.
Andy Dalton or Tony Romo because they're both just good enough?
Tony Romo.
I'm probably.
And
with
that
him on
says a lot about me because you know I love Andy Dalton.
If you switch them, is there a difference?
Cincinnati already has a Super Bowl. Cincinnati might have won it last year. I really think that.
That's a bold statement. That's a bold statement.
Look, Andy Dalton,
I'll tell you this: if they have Tony Romo this year, they win that game against San Diego.
I think they're in the Super Bowl this year. They have Tony Romo.
I don't think they can beat Denver still.
Denver's defense is trash.
Okay, but their offense has broken almost every statistical category this year.
Granted, but the 2 teams that Denver played in the playoffs, can we really say that they had an offense capable of keeping up?
No, nobody's going to argue
Denver.
that.
Did they play anyone that had an offense of keeping up with them?
Nobody's going to argue that. I don't think.
I don't remember who Denver played in the first round.
San Diego.
Okay.
And San Diego was so damn conservative
Yeah.
in that first half. They waited till about 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter to turn it
They
up.
played to the fact that they didn't want to win the game. They just played to the fact that let's not lose it.
I think Philip Rivers is a good quarterback too. A lot of people trash him in the Pittsburgh media. I don't understand why. He's a good quarterback.
I mean, I have profound respect for him.
I'd rather trash Eli Manning.
From the 2007 AFC Championship game, playing off an ACL tear that he suffered
Still
the week
playing.
before.
Still
He had
playing.
a minor surgery that no one even mentioned that week leading up to that game against New England. And I know that New England went on to win, but it was 21-12, and that was the whole that was the LaDainian Tomlinson on the sideline game.
People should trash Eli Manning before they should trash Philip Rivers for what he did when he got drafted.
I like Eli. I like the Giants, but people are going to trash Philip more than Eli because Eli has 2 Super Bowls, and that's all that really matters.
The thing about, you're right, but but when it comes to his brother, they're going to trash him first.
Well, yeah, because Peyton Manning, I think, is
Yeah,
one
but
of the greatest
Peyton's only
quarterbacks.
won 1 Super Bowl. That's my point. But
Can we give a little sneak peek to Thursday's edition?
Yeah,
If Peyton Manning wins this Super Bowl,
greatest quarterback of all time.
that's my question.
Okay.
Where do you rank
I agree
him?
with that.
Where
I
do you
don't
rank
disagree.
him?
I'm sorry, Goose. He's ahead of Tom Brady.
I don't
He has
disagree.
every offensive statistical record known to man.
And
He'll
I-
be 2-1 in the Super Bowl.
Doesn't have a cheating scandal.
Oh, hold on. And when you think about it, okay, both of them have had their fair share of weapons to work with. I mean, when you think about when Peyton Manning came into the league, Marvin Harrison, he got Reggie Wayne out of it. He had
Edgerrin-
Dallas Clark for
Edgerrin James.
whatever years.
You're right.
Tom Brady's had his fair share of weapons,
You're right.
but I still give it to Peyton Manning.
Only thing I listen, I'm not a Tom Brady fan, but I will say this: he has done more with less. He did have he had a couple years with Randy and Wes Welker, But you look at, from that 0-1, David Patton, they had, who was the big running back they had?
Corey Dillon?
No, not before him.
Antoine Smith?
Yes, they had guys like him. Mike Vrabel was catching touchdowns in the Super Bowl. 03, they had David Givens.
Was Mike
Deion
Vrabel
Branch.
the MVP in the Super Bowl against Carolina? I'm trying to remember who the Super Bowl MVP was.
Deion Branch
Brady's
was.
never been
Branch
in.
was.
I
Branch
thought
was.
Branch was the MVP.
Oh,
of
he
the
was
Eagles.
04. He was 04. Yes, he was against the Eagles. Who was 03?
I'm telling you, I think it was Vrabel because he had a touchdown, a sack, an interception, and like 10 tackles. I really think it was Mike Vrabel. Can someone please look that up? Because that's been
What is
bothering
it?
me for like 2 weeks
2000, Super Bowl 30.
Whatever.
Not
Super
to-
Bowl 38.
What are we
MVP.
You're asking me
Give me a second.
Philadelphia's running back was it?
now. No, the Super Bowl
Not
MVP.
not to mention they had a really good defense.
Oh yeah, and,
Ty Law,
that's
Lawyer
another
Malloy.
thing. That's another thing. My
Peyton Manning never had a defense
intern
like that.
Kyle was gotten into an argument with some guys about who's better, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. A lot of people say that some of the names for Indianapolis' defense all those years can match up with those names of the New England Patriots defenses, which I think is a complete joke.
Wait, Kyle made that argument?
No. I'm saying I've seen people say that
There's
Indianapolis,
no way. You have Teddy Bruschi,
Willie
Willie
McGinnis,
McGinnis, Mike Vrabel, Richard Seymour. I mean,
Ty Law, Rodney Harrison, even though I
No
hate him.
way.
Lawyer Malloy.
Laurie Malone.
no way. I'm sorry, no way.
And who was the big nose tackle they had before Wilfork?
Ted Washington.
Okay, I got your Bob Sanders, I got your Gary Brackett, I
Bob
got your
Sanders played
Freeney's.
12 games in like 17 years. So, do you
got
have it, Dan?
It was Super Bowl 38 MVP Tom Brady.
I could have swore he never had an MVP.
Super Bowl 38 MVP
They did
Tom
that.
Brady.
That was a good Super Bowl.
That was against the Panthers, where
Yeah.
Deshaun
Yep.
Foster went like 80 yards.
That was
not-
also... I'm not going to go there.
I know what you're talking about. Halftime show. Hey, how you doing, Janet?
Oh, right. But guys, back to the Senior Bowl game. Two guys that I really think are going to make inroads in the NFL that are from lesser-known schools when it comes to football. You have Pierre Desir, cornerback from Lindenwood, who just dominated receivers at Senior Week. And then Karan Reed, a defensive tackle from Princeton, who I think could
Later
fit
rounds.
the Steelers in a 3-4.
Well, that'll be 2 years in a row that Princeton got someone drafted.
Yeah. But Karan Reed really impressed a lot of people. And I look for him to be drafted in the later rounds, but be a big-time player.
Question.
Yeah.
We need to talk about the draft at some point.
We will.
Okay,
When
just
it
making
gets
sure.
closer, we'll do our own little mock. But guys,
Combine's coming up.
Because I have a bold statement to make when it comes to draft time.
Whoa! I gotta know what it
you
is.
got to hear that. You
I
got to give the viewers a quick sneak peek, real quick.
They're going to Houston with the first overall pick is going to take
Jadeveon?
Teddy Bridgewater. Okay.
That's a bold statement.
No, they
Oh.
shouldn't. They should take Blake Bortles.
Wow.
Why?
We will talk about that.
I gotta know why now.
No, you're gonna have
That's
to wait.
all you get. That's your little tease for the day.
Well, let me tease you this one: Jadeveon Clowney with J.J. Watt.
I like that actually.
I mean, you're every quarterback better watch their head. but
this
still.
is a topic for a later day, but I think Bill O'Brien could make things work with Case Keenum because he made things work with Matt McGloin.
Yeah, but he
Matt
should-
McGloin started like
but-
7 games in
But the
NFL
thing with
this year.
Houston is that that's their number one need, and they got to take it in the number one
I know.
overall pick.
But guys, we're going to move on to the NBA. A couple big games from individuals this past week.
Somebody heard of defense?
Yeah.
No,
Well, when you
no,
have
the
Ryan
NBA's never
Kelly-
heard of defense.
When you have Ryan Kelly guarding Carmelo Anthony
Lakers are a
for
joke.
35 minutes.
Goose was waiting to spill that one out.
eh,
Parting shots at the boy.
The 29th ranked team in the NBA.
Power rankings.
How the mighty have fallen.
You need to realize the Mighty also don't have the best player in the last 15 years.
True.
So,
I'm just
I'm just
Rumor has
enjoying
it that Carmelo, who we are going to talk about in a few seconds
is
here,
getting advice from
Kobe, and also
free
is
agency.
weighing between obviously New York, Chicago, and LA.
I don't want him in LA, and that's something we'll talk on later. I don't want another ball stopper in LA. Anyway, Terrence Ross
Oh, out of Washington,
has woken up since Rudy Gay has been dealt to the Kings.
the whole team has.
51 points against the Clippers, who are a joke of a team in my opinion. Don't play basketball, or they don't play defense whatsoever.
You say they do play
Dan.
basketball.
that's a
They're
number,
playing better of
actually.
late.
What?
The number 5 in the power ranking Clippers are right now.
The power rankings are a joke.
I know.
They're playing
I'm
better.
well
right
aware
now.
of this. Oklahoma City's number 1.
They deserve it though.
No, I wouldn't have them as the best team in
I-
basketball right now.
I
Indiana's still out
Doc
there.
Rivers, I thought was a great get for the Clippers.
Who trades for a coach?
When you got a guy like Doc
I'm just
Rivers,
saying that's-
Sterling.
I'm saying it's like it's
David Sterling. Excuse me.
it's a anomaly. It never happens. That's how much they thought of Doc Rivers.
I Just real quick, I know it's completely off topic, but I think the Bulls trade Tom Thibodeau in the offseason because Tibbs is really upset with the rebuilding project that's going on right now.
Oh yeah, I got a lot of guys
LA,
in front of
give him a call. You want defense?
Oh yeah, but
There's your man.
and then one real quick, we're talking about NBA.
Yeah.
Very classy
Oh.
Boston. Sorry, did I segue into your?
Yeah, we were gonna get to that.
Sorry, but
Too bad.
We're gonna talk about it now. Two of the greatest Celtics. Well, one of the greatest Celtics.
Right.
One of the better Celtics in history. One Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. Love him or hate him. Returned to Boston last night, and just it was awesome. I saw some of the videos of fans. I saw the tribute videos. I don't like the Celtics whatsoever.
Lakers.
Wonder why.
Well, hey,
Obviously.
But man, that was classy. I mean, Paul Pierce, the truth, one of the greatest
I hate
Lakers
him.
of all time.
I
I
hate
hated him when he played for the Celtics. He plays for the Nets now, and I respect him. He's a baller. He played 18 years, I believe, in Boston.
15.
Yeah,
15,
he hasn't
okay.
been in the league that long.
But it was classy what they did. KG only spent 6 years there,
4, 5,
4,
6,
5,
something.
Oh wait, since 08.
so he won a
6,
championship
something,
there.
5.
And they did the same thing they did for Paul Pierce, for KG. I mean, that's classy in my opinion. And it was a good game. It was a very good game. I thought the Nets should have blown them out. That's just me. But I really respected and appreciated what the Celtics did for KG and Paul Pierce last night.
Yeah, it was an absolutely classy move. Especially, I mean, you mentioned that Kevin Garnett, love him or hate him. Personally, I love him. He's for a long time been one of my favorite players in basketball. Him and along with I can't stand what he's doing in Brooklyn right now. But when he was a player, I loved Jason Kidd too. I can't stand him now. I think coaching was the worst thing he ever decided to do in his life. But yeah, they especially Paul Pierce. He meant so much to that franchise. Granted, he couldn't. They had to get him some pieces there in Boston to win a championship. He couldn't do it on his own. He never, until they got Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen, he never really had that much to work with.
Antoine Walker. Anyway, can I just comment on Paul Pierce? You remember Antoine Walker?
No, I remember Antoine Walker.
He shot like 17 threes a game.
Yeah, I'm saying never.
No.
He's not to the caliber that Kevin Garnett or Ray Allen is. Ray Allen's the best pure shooter of all time.
Debatable, but well.
Yeah, debatable. Very debatable.
Okay, everybody's going to debate Reggie Miller. I understand that.
No. What about Steph Curry?
Not yet.
Oh, easy.
Not yet. Come on
Bobs.
now.
Easy.
Come on now.
Come on. Easy.
Are you joking?
No.
The only
but
two
I'm
that
saying
even could be
he
put in
just
the-
started.
Did you see what he just did to the Blazers last night?
You need to take a timeout. Cool down. The only two that you can
No.
put in that category are Reggie Miller and Ray Allen right now. That's it. Once Steph Curry's done with his career, maybe you'll be able to put him in that category.
No. Yes. Should I have said him right now? Obviously not. But I'm saying Ray Allen is definitely top 3. But to me, talking about Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce, I love Kevin Garnett. Paul Pierce, I can't stand him. I remember the finals getting wheeled off in the wheelchair.
I thought I was sitting.
He
there,
had just
yes,
better have-
He's done. He's done. He blew out his knee. All of a sudden, he comes back running out of the crowd. That was like
That's a drama queen.
Dude for the Knicks.
Willis Reed.
Yeah,
Willis Reed.
there we go.
Like, come on, get out of here. That was way over the top. He got wheeled out of the wheelchair for God's sakes. But
Hey, I'm gonna say what that Willis Reed when he came out for that game. That's one of the best moments in NBA history right there.
yeah. But guys, also, you mentioned Melo. His wife Lala comes out and says Melo's definitely sticking with the Knicks now. Just saw it on ESPN.com. But he dropped 97 points combined in the last 2 games against the Bobcats and the Lakers. 35 last night against the Lakers, 62 against the Bobcats. Ryan Kelly was guarding Melo for about 30 minutes in that game. This just proves my point that Mike D'Antoni's the worst coach in NBA history, has no idea what he's doing defensively. Ryan Kelly, I mean, Dimitri, you're a Duke guy. Ryan Kelly guarding one of the best pure scorers in basketball? Come on, man.
Oh, don't do that.
I'm sorry, but where else are you going to go in the Lakers team?
I don't know.
I mean, you're going to play zone?
Do something different.
And that's what I was going to say about IUP. How come they didn't go to a zone against Maurice Lewis-Briggs? I mean, if someone, because you're in the NBA, you can't play zone? Why
Yes.
not? Why not?
Because it was illegal for like 75 years that they play zone.
To me, Carmelo, there's no question about his scoring ability. He can score the basketball, and he can do whatever he wants on the offensive side. Defensively, he's a little bit of a liability, but again, He's too much of a talent. He has to kind of, like Kobe did, when they had that stretch where they had Smush Parker and Chris Mim. He's got to knock down the door in the front office and say, "Get me some help."
Oh, it's coming. It's coming in some shape or form.
And he's got to realize he is the face of that franchise. He's the franchise player. He needs to kick down the door of the front office and say, "I need some help," and get it going.
I want to pose this question.
Oh Lord.
The night was Friday night when Melo put up 62.
Yeah.
He hit that half-court shot, whatever the heck, blah, 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 at the buzzer. Okay.
Go Knicks.
There's something that's getting a little bit overlooked. And I want to ask you guys which one you think is more impressive, because I know which one I think it is. The fact that Melo put up 62 against a Charlotte Bobcats team. Charlotte Bobcats.
Right. I see your point.
Or take his first half out of it. Chandler Parsons that night scored 34 in the second half against the Memphis Grizzlies with 10 straight threes. What's more impressive
I got to
there?
give it to my boy Chandler Parsons from Florida.
You don't expect it out of him. You expect it out of Carmelo.
I expect him to
99.
be a damn good three-point shooter.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not expecting
Chandler
10
Parsons is-
straight.
Yeah, you don't
He
expect.
almost broke Kobe's record.
Yeah, you don't expect Chandler
In a
Parsons.
half.
You don't expect him to put up 34 points in a half. You expect Carmelo Anthony to put up 62 in a game when he's the only one on that
When he's
team that can
also
really
shooting
score.
the ball 40 times.
Exactly. Parsons shot the ball 15, 16 times, something like that, and had 34 points in the second half.
Yeah, no, I see your point. I would rather have Parsons. That performance to me was more impressive. But I don't know. I think Carmelo is one of the more overrated players. And I'm a Syracuse fan.
He did win the scoring title last year.
Yeah, but
That's his only really claim to fame to me at this point.
yeah. Well, yeah, I think, just off topic real quick before we end the show, I really think the Knicks should be better than what they are right now.
Everybody thinks that.
They have so much offensive firepower on that team, and they just don't know what they're doing. I love Tim Hardaway Jr. He is a beast for that team. To me, he's made J.R. Smith expendable, but no one's going to take on that contract and him being such a head case. So,
I'm going to make a comparison there.
what?
That contract is what the Chris Letang contract is for the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Ooh, boy.
Because
and with that,
even if the Penguins want to move him, they're not going to be able to.
They're going to move him.
But they're not going to be able to.
They're going.
I don't
to
think
move him.
anybody's going to take that
no one's
contract.
going to take on that contract.
You don't think a team?
No, man,
8 years, 58 million.
Hang on.
Who's
Let's
gonna take
wait.
that?
We're going to take a little unbiased here. Our producer Adam, you like the Flyers. Would you take on that Chris Letang contract in
No, I would
Philadelphia?
not take that Chris Letang
Thank you.
contract. Are you crazy?
And you have no defense.
Yeah. I mean,
Hey,
what, he's 38 something, right? Or he has one of the longer deals for the Penguins.
And
most
years.
expensive.
8
8 years,
years.
58 million.
That's
He's close.
ridiculous.
He's close to Malkin and Crosby.
He is the
Close.
worst defenseman defensively I've ever seen.
They'd be better
the
off
worst.
putting him on the wing.
Eric Carlson, I would take Letang over Carlson.
Nope.
Oh,
No,
I would take
wouldn't
Carlson.
either. I would not.
Carlson doesn't know defense, guys.
Neither does Letang.
I'd take Carlson. If you're gonna look at it this way, if neither one of them know defense, who's the better scorer? Carlson.
Touche.
And Ottawa does not have nearly the pieces Pittsburgh does.
That's true.
Does any team?
No.
No, but
Chicago.
we've seen them routinely that pieces don't win you championships
Yeah.
in the
Well,
NHL.
And except for Chicago.
Well, okay.
Chicago has good defensive
All right.
goaltending when it counts.
All right, guys, that'll do it for the second installment of the Out of Bounds podcast. Thursday, Dimitri's excited. Oh, Lord. We have the Super Bowl preview. And Kyle, the intern.
Bittersweet moment, last game of the year.
Go Broncos. Richard Sherman
half of
turned me
me
into a
wants to
Broncos
jump in
fan.
possibly for that.
Richard
You can
Sherman.
comment. You can
Yeah.
comment. But, yeah.
It's gonna be good.
So, producer Adam Clapp, Mike Gosnell, Dan Wallace, Dimitri George. I'm your host, Josh Carney, signing out.
All right, see ya.